This is something that we have discussed at length on this show. But when the Secretary General of the United Nations says the organization will run out of cash by the end of this month, it is cause for concern. In a letter to United Nations staff, Antonio Guterres has opened up on the financial crisis. Remember, the UN owes India a debt of $38 million, the highest it owes to any country. It uses India's money, it uses India's peacekeeping forces, and it doesn't give India permanent membership to the Security Council. If this isn't a fit case to usher the long-pending reforms, wonder what is. This report explains.
Barely days after the UNGA extravaganza, the United Nations is running out of funds. At the end of September, the UN suffered a cash shortage of $230 million. Now, Secretary General Antonio Guterres says that additional stopgap measures are needed to even pay salaries. In a letter to the 37,000 employees of the UN, Guterres highlighted the concern and said that member states have only paid 70% of their annual payment. To cut costs, the UN will now postpone conferences and restrict official travel. The shortage stems from a fundamental problem. The UN depends on 193 member states, and when these countries refuse to pay, then it's a battle for survival for the UN. Only 34 countries, including India, pay their regular assessments in full before the due date. As of last week, 94 member states have paid their regular budget assessments after the due date. 65 countries, including the US, are yet to make their annual payment in full. And this leads to the next question. How is the UN funded? Which country spends more? The latest official data available is from 2017. While the operating budget is roughly $5.4 billion, the UN's overall revenue in 2017 was $53 billion. And the United States contributes over a fifth of this. So why is the US paying more? Per country contribution is decided on the basis of a complex formula, which adjusts for a country's gross national income, per capita adjustment, debt adjustment, and several other factors. This formula is at the center of the controversy. And then the funding has another complication. Total contributions are divided into assessed contributions and voluntary contributions. There are crucial organizations such as UNICEF, UN Development Programme, and UN Population Fund that run on voluntary contributions. Such contributions have not been forthcoming from countries.
The United States is committed to making the United Nations more effective and accountable.
The US wants all the other countries to do their bit, but yet, when the United Nations is strapped of cash, it is only restricting its operations in Africa and Asia. Appeasing the US continues to be the UN's survival tactic. For instance, the United Nations owes a debt of $38 million to India. This is the highest that the UN owes any country. It's not the US, Germany, Japan, China, France or Russia. It's India, followed by Rwanda and Pakistan. The UN runs on the money of developing countries to settle disputes in favor of the developed world. Why would and should some countries keep patience needs reforms? While it uses India's money and India's peacekeeping forces, why is it shying away from giving India a permanent membership of the Security Council? Bureau Report, Wion, World is One.